This morning on the Ag Issues program, it is a pleasure to be joined onto the program by Randall Debler, who is from Alma and serves as the immediate past chair of the Kansas Beef Council. Of course, May is Beef Month, but Randall is in a new or special position right now because we are talking to him from Japan, Tokyo, Japan, as a matter of fact. So, Randall, I'll do this officially.
hmm
Good morning here. Ohio gozaimasu. That's in Japanese. That means good morning. And good evening there in Tokyo or Konbanwa. How are you today?
Well, I'm good, Greg. As you stated, it is evening time here, and I want to thank you for having me on. Really appreciate that.
Well, let's first talk about this trip. You are with a group, and correct me on the number if I'm off a bit, of 15 of producers, including you, with the U.S. Meat Export Federation.
Yep, you're exactly right. There's 15 of us here from really across the nation. Come here to with the underlying goal of promoting U.S. beef.
And you are in Japan now, but the first leg of the trip, you guys were in Korea.
Yep, that's correct. We got to visit Korea. It is the first time for myself to be there, and pretty eye-opening. Korea is such a strong U.S. beef market. It was really something that opened my eyes. We got to tour a few places there, one of which was like Costco. It was not different from how Costco would be in our neck of the woods, but the the real thing that it drove home for me was when we were around the meat case was just how popular U.S. beef is there, and the folks there really like it. The quality just shines through, and the people there really appreciate that.
And I can remember back from my trip, and this is now, gosh, 15 years ago that I took it, but the labeling of the products, not only, with Japanese beef, Australian beef, but specifically for U.S. beef, um, you got to differentiate yourself in markets
hmm
like that.
Yeah, you're exactly correct. It's the labeling is clear cut and very easy to tell where any particular product is coming from. And believe me, the crowd around the meat cases with U.S. beef compared to others was noticeably different. And it was an amazing thing. One other thing that really opened my eyes, we had the opportunity to go to Samsung's R&D center. You think about Samsung, you think about electronics and TVs and things of that nature, but the one thing I hadn't really thought about was all of the employees and the cafeteria. And Samsung has gone to using U.S. beef there in their cafeteria as kind of a perk, to really step up their cafeteria program and provide those meals to their employees. And the scale of it is pretty impressive. They serve like a million meals a day, and it's a new channel to market U.S. beef in, and it's working out really quite well. It was truly eye opening for me.
One of the things too with these trips, not only from officials like Samsung, like the Korean version of Costco, you hear from those people or officials, but you get a chance to get maybe a little aspect of why the consumer is enjoying and why maybe they prefer U.S. beef as well.
You're true. It's right on. The consistent quality, and then the corn fed taste that is all associated with U.S. beef is leaving a mark there that none of our competitors can seem to even get close to, and they just keep coming back. And with the strength of the dollar now, it makes things a little bit challenging in those markets, but the consumer really likes the product, and they really, really like the quality and the consistency of that quality, and it keeps them coming back. So we're here helping USMEF, visit those customers and reassure them that, even with the strength of the dollar that makes the marketing there a little bit challenging, we're still here and committed to bringing them the product that they love.
And I'm sure we'll emphasize this many times during our conversation here, but the work that the USMEF does, you have a great product in US beef, but it's USMEF's objective to make sure they market the US beef properly in countries like Korea.
That's true. The folks that are on staff for USMEF are just spectacular, extremely dedicated in providing this, product to those folks, and the people that they deal with are highly dedicated in making sure that that U.S. beef is in the market and at the market share that it should be. And those folks are willing to keep coming out and keep purchasing that U.S. beef.
Joining us from Tokyo, Japan, this morning on the Ag Issues program, Randall Debler, who is from Alma. He also is the immediate past chair of the Kansas Beef Council. And of course, we're celebrating here in the States, or here in Kansas, May is Beef Month. But we thought we'd expand that out a little bit as he is joining us on a group 15 beef producers from across the nation on a trip with the U.S. Meat Export Federation. We've been talking with Randall about their experiences in Korea. As we speak to you, Randall, you are in, or just earlier today, arrived in Tokyo, Japan. So what are some of the things I would assume similar to what you did in Korea as far as your travels?
Yeah, here in Japan, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So it looks like the itinerary has us going to the U.S. Embassy, which we did in Korea too. We got to talk to some folks there from USDA and their commitment to not only U.S. beef but other products coming in and maybe some of the hurdles and obstacles that they have to try and work around and how they deal with that. I expect we'll have a very similar overview here in Japan, and we get to go to USMEF's offices, and they'll talk about honestly the very similar things, kind of their obstacles and market, how the market is trending, what they see as potential places to excel, and maybe what they think might be some hurdles, and we'll get to talk about those things too. So honestly, we'll do another visit to a Costco here. It'll be interesting to see how those the view at the meat cases compare between the two countries. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
And specifically in Japan, we know concerning the tariff rates on what we hope will be the lowering of the tariff rates eventually. It's a good news, bad news in that it is going down, but when we sell or when we reach the quota of U.S. beef that has been sold, in this case into Japan, then that tariff rate goes up. So you take the good, you take the bad in this case.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, I'm sure we'll talk about, kind of a strategy of maybe a game plan of how they will try to navigate those obstacles and do the best that we can. But, when it comes down to the actual customer, I'm just blown away at how the customer here is honestly a very meat eating customer, and how much they have highly prized the overriding quality and consistency of quality from U.S. beef.
I don't want to say in Japan it's the protein of choice, but you have so many other proteins, not only from meat, but also from soybeans, tofu, and other things like that, and fish. So, but it competes very well in Japan.
Yeah, it seems to, and although I'm on the very front end of the tour here, I know how well it competes in Korea, and it's really been, honestly, the like you said, the protein of choice there. The customer is seems to be quite happy with the product that we're bringing.
And I guess too, can you talk a little bit about competition in the aspect of in Japan, in Korea? There's a lot of competitors in the aspect of Australian beef and other countries who import to those countries because of the fact that, quite frankly, the supply of beef they have, their own domestic supply is not enough. So it is a very competitive market.
Yeah, and you summed it up really well. The domestic supply will not even come close to meeting the demand in these countries. And honestly, our biggest competitor here is Australia. The last couple of years, at least, Australia has suffered from a pretty major drought, and the numbers there of beef cattle have been down, and that's affected their market share. Um, and now that those numbers are coming up, we're still not quite, although they're grain fed out of Australia, it's not quite the same as maybe our corn finished beef that the U.S. is bringing to the table there, and it's been reflected in the consumer's choice. They're still they really like that corn finished taste, and they keep coming back to the U.S. beef.
Randall Debler is joining us. He is from Alma, but is the immediate past chair of the Kansas Beef Council. And he is joining us from Tokyo, Japan, here on the Ag Issues program on 580 WIBW. Randall, another thing, too, you go into the grocery store, in this case, the Korean version of Costco, and I'm sure you'll see here in Japan the same way. Uh, what they prefer cuts wise, as far as what they consumers like to eat, obviously a little different than what you would see here in a Kansas grocery store.
Yeah, it's been very interesting. So in Korea, a really popular cut has been this short rib roll, and I really like it. And I'm going to learn a little bit more about it and talk to my local butcher. It's really good. I like this. So every family is different, but we struggle a little bit with what to do with that short rib, and this is pretty doggone good. So I'm gonna take a few ideas home myself.
And especially, you know, thinking of that, and I'm sure you saw that as well. It's even, where we get a steak, they have it a little different as far as how it's cut and how it's presented in the grocery store too.
Yeah, there's lots of differences that way. Some of it, I think, is just the cultural difference of how they've prepared their beef in the past. It's not quite the same as how we would do it in the U.S., but the prized high marbling, consistent tenderness, those things are the overriding factor that keep driving those customers back to us, and in, and there is some um, uh, usage of cuts that maybe aren't so popular at home, and those things add value, back to those carcasses for us, that things that folks in the United States don't necessarily prefer, that over here are kind of prized cuts, and anytime we can do that, and it just adds value to that beef carcass for us, it's a good thing.
And then you think about it in the overall wide view. It's been what, 20 plus years, a little over 20 plus years since the cow that stole Christmas. We all know and remember what the effect was there. But once we finally reached that, we have seen these markets in Japan, in Korea, in other Southeast Asian countries become pretty robust once again.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. These are major importers of U.S. beef, and um, the value that they add to every finished steer beef carcass value is pretty doggone high, and we want to do what we can to make sure this customer here is happy and keeps coming back, because their impact is pretty large.
I would assume that the trust level is pretty high once again. Do you get that feeling as well from what USMEF officials tell you?
Yeah, absolutely. The trust level is very high. The demand resilience here is very high. When we're running into those headwinds of the U.S. dollar, and how that plays into the value and the price they have to pay for the U.S. beef, but those customers keep coming, and like I say, the demand resilience is very strong.
And Randall, as we wrap this up, you talk about adding value to that carcass, adding value to that steer that is out there. It's an impact that continues to grow and hopefully can get bigger too.
Yeah, you're right. With the cattle numbers as they are presenting themselves at home, and how that kind of forecast looks for the next couple of years, the market price of those animals is going to continue to stay high, and what these countries can contribute to that, beef carcass value is pretty substantial, and with the demand the way that it is, and the resilience of the demand from those customers here, it looks pretty good if we can. You know how it is. If we can keep outside things from kind of mucking up the things that we have going here, the road looks pretty good.
All right, Randall, we're going to put a cap on it from there. But hey, I really appreciate you joining us. I know flying to Korea or to Japan, it's been a long day. As we are speaking now, recording this interview, it's past 11 o'clock in the evening in Tokyo. But appreciate you joining us today on the Ag Issues program.
Well, Greg, I really appreciate you, and thanks for having me on.
That is Randall Debler from Alma, who serves as the immediate past chair of the Kansas Beef Council, but also is on a trip with 15 other producers across the nation with the U.S. Meat Export Federation. He joins us from Tokyo, Japan this morning on the Ag Issues program here on 580 WIBW. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll get an update on the news headlines, and we'll check the weather forecast. That comes up next.